Just trying to finish the hood off with the 220. We're taking off where we left off. I get these stickies at my local Napa store. They bring them to me. They're very good to me that way. And we're on 220 grit. What is going to happen is I got to finish the hood off. We'll take off where we left off. And I'll go down front. I got a couple more pieces of body fill that I got to sand where there were some dents up around the headlights. I'm going to sand them off, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. You can see that the guide coat shows me the highs and lows on that hood, you know. And you have to keep sanding, trying to keep sanding until you can get them out if you can. It does matter to me. Does matter to me. Some it don't, but to me it does. I'm trying to flatten it out the best I can. And I'm using this primer to do it. Like I always say, if you do not have enough product on the car, you cannot get the job done. And if you can picture it, on some places on this hood are going to be thinner than others because we're using it for a filler sort of thing, if you know what I'm trying to say. Trying to make it a little straighter than it was. There was a good question or a good thing on the internet last night I seen on the Hiltz Auto Group page. Yeah, you always try to leave them edges till the end because you can buff them no problem. The edges burn off really quick. When you're doing stuff like this, you leave them to the end and give them a little scuff after. And that's how you can have sharp lines on your car if you want to. If you want to take them all off and make sure you don't cut it down. In the end, you'll have some nice, really sharp lines of the primer buildup. And you'll be able to make them whatever you want. You can round them off, leave them sharp. You can do whatever you like. You can see how I'm trying to get that out in there. There's a little puddle inside there on our surface. Just trying to get that out. I'm glad I switched over to 220. And I'll tell you why. Because I'd be here all day with a 400. And the 400 was not making me happy in the process. It was not going fast enough. It was not going fast enough. I'm going to try to speed it up here a little bit. It's just the hood there. You really want to take your time, sort of, and get it looking good. I guess that's with all the stuff, I guess. The stuff down low, sometimes you can get away with on the bottom, like you can get away with it. But if you're good with your eye, you generally can't. Trying to get that out. That's all there is to it. Getting her. And if you notice, I'm not running over top of it all the time to get it. I'm running around it and then going over it once in a while. You know, I'm trying to bring all the surface down around it at the same playing field. I'm trying to. I call that well done. Mask and glasses do not match up. So that's what we're doing. I wanted to see what was going on there. Also, the edge of the hood was flipped up a little bit, and you could see a line of the guide coat showing me what to do. I'm just going to get on the front here, buzz a little bit more off the front. I did that side there. I couldn't run it up any further. The windows are taped up to flop the hood open. We don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that right now. I just want to buzz this off really quick. I did a little bit of body fill here, fixed the dent around the headlights, and I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do with that after. I showed you last night or yesterday what I did with the ones over there, just guide coated them again. I'm going to leave them off. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up a little primer. I'm going to go around this car wherever there's bare metal. I'm going to give it a swipe with 220. I'm going to knock off the guide coat, and I'm going to give a little bit of primer on top of the bare metal on this car, because I do not want anything showing except for primer. And if I can just put a little go over, mix a little more primer up, stick some primer on her, then I'll be happy. And what I mean by that is all the places that I went around yesterday and put some body fill on, little tiny places that I fixed, a little dent there, a little spot there I went to metal, a little spot over there, I'm going to put a little primer on those, and I'm going to do it right in front of your very eyes, like I always do. So I got some body fill here. It's on the primer. I got a piece of 80 grit. My glasses back on so I can see. It's 80 grit. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm going to hit it with 80 grit. And you know what I do after 80 grit? I primer it. Right? 40-80 prime. So I'm going to just go back to the prime in a little tiny bit. But I'm going to fix this little spot here. You can see the body fill quite easily when I start sanding. I only want to sand the body fill too until I get to a certain point. I only want to sand the body fill. I don't want to sand her. There we go. So I'm hitting the spot there now. We're going to leave it as that right there. I'm going to put a little, this one over here. The 220, I just would be working at it the whole time, and I still want to cover it up with primer. Still want to cover it up with primer. I do not want to shoot paint over top of body fill. I do not want to do that. So I'm going to do this, shoot a little primer over each little spot where there's metal. And then we're going to go from there. Fix all the little tiny places. And all I'm doing is feathering that off so I do not feel anything. Trying not to take primer off at the same time. I think we just got a couple spot welds here or something because there was two on the other side, but they just didn't match up to what we're doing, so they got a little filler on them. Crisscross that there, get it off. Just trying to feather that edge down. You can see the edge where it's shiny on there. Can't have it like that. It's not feathered off. You know what I'm trying to tell you. Got to feather it off. She goes. Okay. 80'd that off. Got that off. Got that off. I'm just checking them over. Checking them over. That one off, that one off. I got one over here. I seen. Taking an 80 grit, rubbing it off. A little rust spot there. I was trying to fill in a pick, I guess. A little pick there was a little heavy. I didn't want to see it. So we got a spot there. I already did the guide coat. Show you what I did with the guide coat. Tried to make it what I wanted to make it. That there. Okay, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up some primer. We're not going to mix up some primer this second. I'm going to take a little piece of sandpaper. Excuse me, sweetheart. Excuse me, sweetheart. I'm going to buff off the rest of this, and I'll do that by hand. This is 220 I'm using right now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here and put a little primer on this. And I don't want the guide coat underneath if I can help it. You know what I'm trying to tell you. I just want the primer underneath it. I don't want the guide coat. I'm just going to sand it back a little bit. You See that guide coat leaving? Now it's going to look good. Even if you're sanding by hand, you got that guide coat on there, you'll see the dent. The block is to straighten things out, or the DA like I use it. I just hold it flat, try to use it the exact same way. And the only reason I use it because I wanted things to go faster. And that's basically it. I wanted it to go faster, and I got good at it. It's funny how many people told me, oh, you can't do it that way, you can't do it. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Can't do it that way. Yes, you can. That's just a motivator when you can't do something. It's just a motivator. And that should be a motivator to everybody that's, you know, that thinks they can. Someone tells you you can't, get on it. Go for it. Put a little primer on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back here, put a little primer on that. See a little bare metal right here? Nope, got a little body fill there. I want to fix that one. Back to my 80 grit. Go easy on that sort of stuff. Burns through quick. As soon as you start hitting the ocean floor anywhere is when you're fixing something. That should be an instant alert to slow down. You know, if you hit metal, that's the very first thing that you do. You stop when you hit metal. Not stop, drop, and roll, but stop. When you start hitting metal, stop. You're not going any further unless you plan on taking a hammer and beating it in. You know what I'm trying to tell you. Once you hit metal, you have to stop unless you're beating it in, basically. So that's why I want no metal showing on the car. I'm just going to sand this off here a little bit. And the reason I'm sanding it off is I don't want to get confused when I put the primer on it, when I put the guide coat on it. I don't want to get confused when I sand it off. I want it to know what I'm doing. So where I'm sanding is where I'm going to put the primer. I'm going to put a little primer on the end of that, a little primer around there, and so forth. I don't need primer down in there. Don't need it down in there, but I need some here, I need some there. And I'll only put it where I need it. And I'm only going to put a little tiny bit. I'm not going to flash it up again and put it on wet. Nope, not going to do that. Just putting enough on so when the car is ready to go to be primed in 400, it'll all be one color. And hopefully after we sand it with 400, it's still one color. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm going for. So that's good, that's good. Just going to knock this back a little bit. I'll put a little primer on this light. I left a little primer in the can. I think we all maybe remember, if everybody was watching. Jolene has shirts she's giving out today, and she's going to make a list over on the board to write down the people that have got her attention and need a shirt. We appreciate your kindness. Anything else is up for discussion. Right? Right? Couldn't help it yesterday, boys. I jumped up and I said, Jolene, there's an engine I want. We went and bought another old cheap engine. He gave us a good deal on it, helped us load it, man, tied her all down for us. We even bought a transmission when we were there. You know what I mean? Right on. He was good to us, wasn't he, baby? Huh? Pretty good to us. Yeah, he was. Yeah, bought a motor and transmission yesterday. And I guess the reason I bought it, the price was right. The price was right. And I bought it for this car here. I did buy an engine for this. Me and Doug played with it for a little bit for the 40. And the engine that I bought was a Vortec engine, just so I could put the fake Oldsmobile covers on it. And when you go to put an intake on those engines, which I'm learning, I didn't know, but the intake is different on the Vortec than the old style. So this engine I bought last night that we ran and went and got has the conversion on it. So that makes me happy. That makes me happy. It used to be in a four-wheel drive, and this is what I could probably say about the engine. She's probably a good one because she probably was used quite heavily. You know what I'm saying? The engines that are used usually that last are the good. You know, don't matter how hard you hold them, the good ones stay together. The good ones stay together. I find, anyways. And I can tell you why. I bought a nice truck, a 1969 Chevy. It was beautiful. Like, it had like 42,000 miles on it. It has 6-cylinder in it, and I used it a little bit rough when I was younger, and it didn't take long. The old thing, you know what I mean? She was using quite a bit of oil on me and everything like that. Geez, and then later on in my life, I bought a GT Mustang from a guy. He used her just as rough as you could use her. And that turned out to be one of the better cars I've ever had. It was fun. It was fun. I've had a lot of cars in my day. A lot of cars. Not big dollar ones, just a lot of cars. I'm just going to put a little primer on this side because I hit the metal a couple times. You know what I mean? Hit the metal. See, there's a little spot of filler there where that dent is. Now I just want to put a little primer on that. Look at that now. Would you throw that away? Just want to touch that up. Now there's a little spot here that I just don't want to paint. I just don't want to paint the body fill. You know what I'm saying? I want something on it. So right now I'm just flashing it all off. Wherever there's metal. I already did this one here. There's a chunk of Bondo there. Took it off with the 80 grit. Now I'm just hitting it with the 220, smooth her up a little bit. No metal showing. No metal showing. A little bit right there. I'm going to cover that black up here. Just cover that up a little bit, maybe. There's a t-shirt giveaway she's going to do. She'll write that down here in a bit. We'll do the little video, and then we'll leave that for the end, just to show our appreciation to everybody. So I'm going to sand this off in here. See, I got some bare metal there. I don't want that. I'm going to sand that off. Just give her a little shot of love, and right in this moment is primer. That's what that is right now. Love is the primer. Gonna put a little bit on that. And this is why, you know, sometimes this is why things can get expensive or get out of hand when you're doing body work, because you could do this so many times. You could go over it and back over it and do it again, you know. There's just like you have to know when to cut the cord, I guess, because you really can spend a lot of time. You know, I'm showing you here, I'm painting Doug's car, you know, but in all actual fact, if I was on the clock trying to make some money, we should have been painted by now, if you know what I'm saying. We're doing videos for people, and but in all honesty, you know, I should have worked at it every day and got right on it, you know, but I'm not right there at this point. I am helping somebody at my leisure, and it feels good to do that. Feels some good to do that. Now, I'm just knocking that off, and because I'm going to come in here and shoot a little bit of primer on that. Nothing wrong with it, just going to shoot a bit of primer on it, and I want it knocked off so I can. Yeah. Me and my baby. Right? Yeah, if you need a junk cheap motor, we got one. What, baby? We did all right on it. It has the intake on it for the 4-barrel, and it has, you know, I can dress it up like an Oldsmobile motor with them faux covers, so I'm happy with it. I'm just going to take the air hose, knock off a little bit of dust. Every night before we go in the house, we just blow the car off just to get a little more dust off it, because you know what's going to happen. There's going to be quite a gather of dust here after a while. And then once you start blowing it around, it stays. So probably what we'll end up doing is we'll blow the car off before we go in some night. And we will not blow it down again before we paint it. We'll just come in here and we'll just take a sprayer and just spray the walls. Right? We'll blow it down the night before, but we'll come in the next day, spray down the walls and everything, spray down the door with just a mister, get some water on the floor, and I'll show you that process too, I will. And we'll wash it down. I'll show you how I wash it down. It's not only Windex. I like to use a chamois. I find the chamois, I learned that from Gene Winfield. He was using soapy water. What am I going for? Air. Soapy water in the chamois, and I took the chamois part and just used the Windex thing that I enjoy because it dissipates. And that's, you know, you can chamois them off. You can pull a lot of dirt out of a primed car with a chamois and Windex. You certainly can. And we'll do all that stuff on the night before, and we'll do it the day we paint it. I'm just going to knock some dust off. That just cut my eye. Paper cut my eye with that thing. I'm just blowing some dust off it. Not all, don't need to be all, just blowing some off it. Make my way around here. So what I have there is I have a 220 sanded Jaguar is what I have. And what I have is some places that I've got fixed on top of the primer. Now I'm going to grab some more primer. I'm going to mix it up in the gun. And I'm going to just come around and hit all the places that I have fixed with primer and places that have bare metal. That's the only places I'm going to hit with the primer. I'm not going to do it all again, not making it wet all again, not doing that. Just going to do a little tiny bit. And that's just to help me out. To make it all one playing field. I do not want anything like that showing at all. Do not want that. And we'll make sure that we get it covered. So basically, I'm going to spray this thing. I'm going to spray that. And then I'm going to guide coat it, and then we're going to sand it with 400 with the guide coat on it. And it's guide coated mostly there now. I got the roof sanded last night. Got the hood sand it this morning, and that's what we're doing. I'm going to get a little Tim Hortons cup. I was thinking about it this morning. Yeah. Just going to save this thinner that I got in the cup. I'll put it back in to clean it the next time instead of wasting some product. So what I'm going to do is, there's a little bit left in this can here. I'm pretty sure there is. I'm going to open her up. See how much is in there. Yep, got a little bit in there. I don't need it all, I don't think. But I am going to get a stir stick, stir it up. One of the biggest mistakes, I think I said it yesterday, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is not stirring up your product or mixing it wrong. There's no one else to blame. You know what I mean? I tried, but there's no one else to blame. Just mix that up there. There's quite a bit left there. I'm not going to use all that. That's another thing too, when you're using your material, you really should pay attention, or try to pay attention on waste. You know, you should try to pay attention. I'm going to mix it back up in the same cup. I didn't even clean it or nothing. I just left it in there to dry. It's hard as hard. I'm just going to pour some back in there. And I'm going to pour in there what I think I'm going to use. I think I'll put that much on at least, I think. I got some hardener here. Yeah. Don't need all of it. It's just a little bit there. Don't need all of it. Well, I didn't do that right, did I? I didn't do that right. I cut it off too far. Just a little tape on it. Stay down. There. So I'm going to take this stick, put in this one, and try not to put the stick back in the primer. It's got the hardener on it. There we go. We got a little primer mixed up. I generally try not to go back in most times, and what I mean by back in is, you know, priming like a couple times. I generally try not to do that. I'll try to, you know, get it all done in one shot. But where the car was primed before we did the body work, I knew that we were going to get back into it because I knew we were going to have to cover the places that we fixed. And the reason being we done it that way was because I wanted to see, what I wanted to see was how much would the primer do so I didn't have to fill it, if you know what I mean. Because to be honest with you, I would have put mud over every spot in that car where the lead was. I would have. And where the primer is that good, I let it do its job and then repair what was left. Da, 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 da. I'm going to get a mask on. Give me, sweetheart. You stand out far enough, you won't, you know what I mean? I'm not going all the way in there. I don't know if you'd have to get right up on the, but you might if you want to get in there. I'm not sure. It's up to you. Do you want one? Just stand out here when you smell it. on a paint gun, you can pull the trigger so far and it's just air. Like that, you just pulled a little tiny bit and it's just air. So sometimes when you're going in there, you can just take the gun, blow the dust off, and then blow some primer. Just if you didn't know, that's the only reason I'm telling anybody, if they didn't know, and the ones that do know. little bit of primer left. I just don't want to. I've got a little bit of primer left. I just don't want to put it on if I don't have to. It's just kind of nonsense, really. Keep piling it up because that keeps building it up and building it up. I'm just trying to recover what we lost. I'm thinking that we're good. If I put some more on, I will. I can't help myself. I cannot waste it. Prime it wet enough, you can see, if you try to see your repair, the repair looks good, eh? You can't see anything in that, and where it's nice and shiny, where the primer's at, you can't see no repair. You know what I'm trying to say? That's something you can look for as you're fixing things. I'm going to call it a day on that primer, I'm going to put no more on it. So right now, I'm just going to dump this out. If you didn't have a gun, you could take that, mix that up, and you could put it on your car with a brush and go over top of that. It's a primer. You can prime your car with a brush. And I'll tell you why, because I've done it. I've taken primer and mixed it up, put it on a car with a brush. And the reason I did that I didn't have a whole bunch of money. I remember I did that. I didn't have a whole bunch of money, so I didn't want any primer going in the air whatsoever. I wanted all on the car so I could use it all. I did my whole car with a paintbrush. It was rough, yes it was, but every bit of that primer was on my car. Every bit. And I had a lot of scratches, and I filled the whole thing, so the whole car had to be sanded, but that's what I did. You won't hold it against me, will you? It worked. It worked. It was a little rough, but let's face it, when you're taking it off with an 80 grit, it didn't matter. Thinner in it, run it through on a rag for a second. I'm done cleaning the gun. Let's do that. Already blew it through once. That's generally good enough for me. It's gonna go like this. Push it through till she comes clear. We're done. Look at that. I'm going to get the guide coat. Right there. The guide coat is where? Right there. Now, when I start sanding the car, we'll stay away from the front end and all the places that I front. So now that I got that little bit of primer covering the places that had some metal showing, and some places that were repaired. Now I'm just going to come in here and guide code again. When I'm going with the 400, now it's time to go with the 400. That's what I'm guide coding it for. To go with the 400. So I just did the 220 on the hood. Now I'm going to guide code it. And we'll carry on with the 400 around the little tiny places that have been reprimed. They're just small spots, so it should not be hard to sand that little spot with the 400. And besides that, yeah. Just trying to guide code every step, just so we do not make the least amount of mistakes as possible. And see, in all honesty, that's where you would use an epoxy. When I took it down to bare metal, and I did not want to prime it and sand it, that means I would have, before I painted it, I would have come in and throw a little epoxy on that bare metal. You shouldn't have any bare metal on your paint jobs, but anyways, and I put a little epoxy on that bare metal. So I would not have to sand it, and then I could just come in and paint it. But right now, I have put primer back on the car because I want it all one surface. I want it all one surface with no metal showing is what I want. And now that I've fixed them places, now I can put a little primer in them places. I've got it guide coated again, just like the rest of the car. And now we can sand it out with 400. You know, with them few places that I put primer on, that's fine. That's fine. Just we'll sand that with 400. Just take a little bit. It'll be fine. There's only a couple little places, so we will not cry. We'll just do our job. So right now I'm just guide coating the roof. The roof has already been done with 220. I told you I got frustrated with the 400 and went back to the 220, which I knew anyways. Just sometimes you play in your own head, trying to get it done a little bit quicker, one way or the other. So right now, at the present moment, all repairs are made. It's all been guide coated and it's all been sanded at 220. It's 400 then paint. So right now, as we leave that dry, we're going to have to sand it all with 400. We'll leave the paper on, but when we're done, we're going to blow the paint room out for. It takes hours to, really blow something off and do a good job at it, but we're going to blow the paint room out. Try to get all the dust out of it. Then we're going to peel all the paper off and see if there's any damages, if you know what I'm trying to tell you. We're going to look for primer, we're over, spray, all that sort of stuff. We'll fix what we have to fix. And then we'll go back into tape again and we'll paint it. So there's still a couple days left, to really get it done. And for me, sometimes it's easier to have a couple cars on the go. Because when I'm not working on this one, you go over here and you work on this one. That's what you'll find at a lot of shops. You have 2 or 3 hoists because sometimes parts aren't coming, but you still want to work, so you go to the next hoist and do your job. What happens is with the old automobile world is sometimes parts, pieces, just the way things are rolling, sometimes it can't get done just right after one another, you know what I mean? Things aren't in order. It's funny, we had people in here the other day. I guess they were fans of the show, and he said something about building a car in 7 days, and yeah, sure. I can understand how someone can say that. I do understand that because we're in that position ourselves. But you have to think about that for a second. You couldn't get the parts in 7 days, if you know what I'm trying to tell you. But that's the car primed, and we got it in guide coat, and I'm happy with that. I have to get an engine off the back of the trailer. We went and got a U-Haul and went and got the engine last night. I have to take that off, and I probably should do that so we can get the trailer back. We have to also give away some shirts, right, baby? Mm-hmm. Come on in. Joy, Jolene's going to write the people down on the piece of paper there for the giveaway, and I'm going to be the one that's holding the camera. So I'm really liking, if you want to take a walk around the car and take a look for a second. So now, as we look at it, we come around this car, there's only primer and guide coat. And we're sanded with 220. So it's really good that I'm really happy with everything being covered with primer and guide coat. So, you know, we can wait. We can do it tomorrow. As far as that goes, we can do whatever we like, baby. But we can do it tomorrow. But right now, everything's covered. Like we've got a little metal shown there, so I put a little primer on there. It's good. I like it that way. And that way there, none of the ocean floor is showing, and it will cause me any problems. So I'm gonna take over the camera for a second. Jolene's gonna do the deal. She's gonna write down the people who get a t-shirt?
Yep.
Give it to them.
We're gonna do.
This is no special order. These are just 10 people that I guess we appreciate and comment all the time. And here we go. And we will try to go ahead, Jolene.
Well, we'll probably try to do one giveaway, maybe every Friday. Like after we do all these, we'll do one giveaway.
So it'll be It's Friday.
Yeah.
And who's getting a t-shirt?
Okay, so the first one is Lindsay Allison Westhaven.
I got a friend named Lindsay. It's in the 36 Fords.
Also,
I want to do some trading with him.
I'm gonna write my email down, so like everybody that's listed, email me what your size is and your address, and then we'll start the process of getting it sent. Next one is Joe Sousa. I think I'm saying that right.
If not, you're spelling it right, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. Next one is Tony Halloran.
Reminds me of that guy Tony Chocolo. I should give you all my fancy names for these names here. Joe Blow and Rick Dogass.
Little history. Tea time.
It's coffee time for us. But I drink a tea. I like tea. I go down to Roy Brown's. Nate would make us a tea, give us a cookie or something. He'd always make us tea. Yeah. We gotta get back down there.
We do. Toolman the Tim.
I'm getting a little closer, squeezer.
These are just YouTube usernames, yeah. So like I don't know what their real names are. Corey Colrin.
Corey the commenter. Make people laugh though, he does.
Yeah. I think they
and you cannot complain about that, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's, you know, it is what it is, but when you're laughing, things are good.
Gregory Burkhart. Craig Hanlon. I think he wants a hat, so
okay.
We'll see what happens.
Beggars can't be choosers, Craig.
And last but not least, Noah Larson. So
I want to give it one more.
Who?
Bald and Dangerous.
Oh yeah, forget about it. Good job.
It just stuck out to me, you know, he's bald and he's dangerous, man. Just, you know what I mean? Like that name sticks out.
Yeah. Okay, so my email. I'm gonna write it. Okay, email.
And these people on here, we appreciate your support. We really do. And we're going to give you a shirt to show you. And next time it'll be someone else's turn.
to Jolene.
Here's up in the corners what you need to do if you want your shirty poo.
Jolene at Hiltz Communications. Inc.com. Get that?
I'm gonna put it right there so they can, I'll leave it there for a while so they can write it down. Those people that want their shirty poo, write down this information and you'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not promising anything because promises are made to be broken.
No, we're promising this one.
Oh.
There you
Some
go.
offer today?
Yep.
You! So I'm just going to clean up. I'm just going to clean up a little bit, get all the cords off the floor. I'm going to run around the cords on the floor for a while now. There is still quite a bit of dust in here. We'll wait for a little bit. We'll hand sand this with 400. We'll probably do it tomorrow, and I'll show you how I'll hand sand. I'll try to hand sand the whole. We'll try to hand sand the whole car in one day. Oh. But anyways, that's what we'll do. We'll just come in and hand sand, and the only reason we're hand sanding because I've already did the block work. I already did the block work, and I've already did the fix work. So now we're just going to come in and hand sand. When it's with 220 now, when I hit it with a 400 in the guy code, it's really going to disappear and dissipate very quickly. So that's a good thing. Around here, we'll have a little tougher time because it's new primer, but that's okay. It's just a little bit, and it's easier to sand that in there with all the different angles because the primer will sand easier being on an edge. Yeah, that's basically it. We want to thank everybody for commenting and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just good that everybody does that. The page is growing like a good weed now, like a good weed. So now what I got to do is I got to go out there and I got to wrestle an engine off the back of the truck. I got to get the engine picker out there. I got to find a place to put it. I'm a sucker for a cheap engine, you know. Someone says good and the price is right. Well, I got there and I got a transmission too, so I'm happy. I'm happy. I thank him for a good deal. I appreciate it. And Jolene was good. We went and had Subway, and it was a good adventure. What a baby.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sayonara.